Hi, I'm Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this Parents and Caregiver series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative. Let's talk about the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. They outline 10 essential values that they say should be in any effective crisis response. I'll kind of go through a few. I'll go through them. I'll list them, and then just pick one or two if you would, and if one or two resonates with you, and talk about why those are important in terms of the work that you do. Avoiding harm, and we've touched on some of these. Avoiding harm, intervening in a person-centered way, sharing responsibility, addressing the trauma head on, establishing feelings of personal safety. And that was so powerful to me, that little corner of your room that we were talking about earlier. Focusing on the whole person, um, treating the person as a credible source for how they're feeling, recovery, resilience, and natural supports, and then prevention. Can you maybe grab one or two of those in the next couple minutes and talk about why those are particularly important, or you found them powerful in the
Okay.
work that you've done?
The one that just jumped out at me right now is supporting the whole person. I think that's amazing because I think when people, or especially younger kids, if they're angry or they're having those uncomfortable and negative emotions, they're thinking I'm bad. But to let them know, hey, you're having this feeling of anger, but you're not an angry person. Like saying there are still good things about you, even in this uncomfortable and negative emotion. I think that's powerful in itself. Just letting them know that I'm okay, even though sometimes I have bad things happen, or I have bad thoughts, or I have bad feelings.
Yeah. So
That's
so
one.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Another one is the I'm real strong about the establishing feelings of personal safety. I think it's extremely important for a person to feel safe in their home, especially a child. If you don't feel safe, it's kind of hard to deal with the things that need to be dealt with because your first priority is to make sure that you survive. So if you're worried about survival, you're not worried about trying to get over being irritable. You're not worried about trying to not be sad or trying to not be afraid. You're just worried about, am I going to be breathing in the next second or so,
Yeah,
or am I going to
yeah.
be in pain in the next second or so. So establishing safety is super important.
It is super important, and I'm without getting too deep into my own personal journey. You can go to Brother Be Well and read all about it. BrotherBeWell.com. I grew up in a house with trauma, quite a lot of trauma, and I can tell you that the sense of safety when when you raise a child and they don't feel safe, in part you never get over that. I'm a lot older than the 12 plus kids that we're serving at Brother Be Well, and there's a part of me you never really settle into. Um, Not feeling safe. You don't It's hard for me to get used to safety. That's unusual for me because in those formative years, I just didn't feel safe in my home. What would you have to say? There's some parents and caregivers that are watching this, but also some young people watching this, and they're unfortunately they don't feel safe right now. What could you say to them to help them reach a point of of feeling safe in their home environments? And I hadn't planned to ask you that, Shannon, but if you could kind of touch on that, I think it could be quite powerful.
um, that's kind of a difficult question. Is there someone in their home that they can trust? And if there is, and they would go to that person and say, hey, I need to feel safe. Like there has to be someone where you can actually express your needs to. So I think finding somebody that you can trust and being able to express those needs to that person, that should help with forming some type of safety, even if it's just emotional safety and not physical safety, because you're both still kind of in the same environment. um
Yeah, that's a great
or
no. That's
I mean, it depends on the situation, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, and again, I didn't mean to ask you that, but I could tell the work that you do as a marriage and family therapist, you probably you deal with a lot of critical issues, and so
Hmm.
we're taking advantage of your level of expertise there. Really appreciate you getting into that. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. You touched on suicide earlier, and this one is it's no one really wants to talk about it, but we talk about a lot of things at Brother Be Well that might not come quite naturally at first, but we're going to talk about this one. Any talk of suicide has to be taken seriously. And certainly I would think if someone's in your care, a young person, you got to take that seriously. If someone says, you said it earlier, if someone says, well, what would it be like if I wasn't here? Or you boy, you would sure miss me if I wasn't here. You got to pay attention to a young person that's saying that. You have a warning sometimes that someone's thinking about ending their life by suicide, but that's not always the case. Um, if someone's attempted suicide before, there's a greater risk. I understand. I did a little research getting ready for this question. What are some of the other warning signs of suicide that someone's thinking about or planning to end their own life via suicide?
Again, the feeling of hopelessness and worthlessness. If they have no reason to live, if they're telling you that there is nothing to look forward to, that is a big warning sign that they don't want to be here anymore. um, if they're complaining again of like unbearable pain or emotional pain or physical pain, or if they have like a debilitating disease and they're like, this is never ending, and they're always talking about it and they just wish it was over, that's a big sign. Again, the sleep patterns, if there's changes in sleep patterns, if they're engaging in risky behaviors, and that can be anything from like excessive substance use to just driving recklessly, or just doing a lot of things where they can like end their life but say it's by accident. Um, let's see. I think one of the big things is if you know someone who has done all of those things, that has been saying, hey, like, I feel worthless, I don't feel like I have anything to live for, and then and then they stop, and it feels like they're starting to prepare to be gone, that's when you really need to intervene. Like if all of a sudden they're happy and they look like they have it all together, when last week they were saying, hey, like, I hate my life and I don't want to be here anymore, that's a big red flag, especially if they haven't had therapy.
Wow. So that's a sign that maybe they've gone from thinking about it to having a plan that they're about to execute.
Yeah, that
Wow,
means
that's
they've made up their
so.
mind.
I just got a chill when you said that. Let me ask you another one while I've got you here. We always take advantage of people like you. I just read this in a media story. Is it a common sign when someone gives away their personal possessions? It struck
Exactly.
me as
Yes.
so really wow. So someone who all of a sudden, they kind of like, I'm thinking about a young person. I gave my favorite video games to somebody, or I gave my, PS1 or whatever. People don't collect records anymore. I'm dating myself, but they gave away the things that they care about to other people. That might be
Hmm.
a sign that they're planning to leave.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful, and a lot of signs for family to take a look at. And can you speak to the if someone has attempted it before, how do people tend to attempt suicide just one time, or is it something that happens over a course of a few times?
I honestly want to say that's hit or miss as far as my experience. Some
Yeah.
people, especially if they've been interrupted, will try again. Um, but then I've also had the experience of someone who has attempted and then they realized what they were doing and they never tried it again. So it does kind of depend.
Yeah, it's hit or miss, and it's important. We're providing information here, just things to think about. So please talk to your own mental health professional or your own primary care uh, health provider. But we're just touching on some things that families might want to think about.
I
Really
think it's
appreciate
funny
that.
that you said that nobody wants to talk about suicide. That's like one of my favorite topics.
Really, why
Yeah.
is that?
I like to have open communication about everything. No holds barred. You can talk to me about anything. That's how I try to live my life. When you make something taboo,
Hmm.
it makes it less accessible. And so you'll never know what's going on if you say, "Hey, we're never going to talk about this," or "I don't want to talk about this." What if we really need to talk about it?
Yeah. That's really powerful. That's one of the things that makes you a great mental health clinician. That no topic in your office is taboo. When I was talking about, no one wants to talk about it, I think for the lay parent that might be really. I don't even want to think about one of my children doing something like that. And it's only been through education. We talked about the importance of education. I
Mhm.
just sat both of my girls down and said, okay, you gotta it was at the time they entered puberty where they were both these super gregarious, friendly young people, right? And with both of them, they hit puberty and they just completely changed. And as a father, it scared me. I didn't know what was going on. And I did a little reading. It was before there was a Brother Be Well. I certainly turned to this platform, but I sat both of them down and said, okay, I understand you might not be too verbose right now. It's not cool to talk to your dad, but you got to let me know what's going on. And this is a little scary to me. And let me know you're okay. What are you dealing with in school? I think it sometimes is a little difficult to wade into those waters. I'm curious though. You as a mental health clinician, we had another clinician who told me that there's a condition that, as great as mental health care providers are in dealing with their clients, sometimes when they're dealing with their own families, they struggle. So the best person with youth, when their own children are the youth, that gets a little hard for them. I don't know if you have children or not. Have you experienced that at all, or no? You got it down, or in the personal and in the professional arenas.
Well, um, my child is now 22, but I will say that we've always had an open communication. When she was
Yeah.
younger, I was actually really big about giving her as much information as she possibly could handle. So she'd ask a question, and she knew it would be okay to ask a question, even though it may be taboo in other people's houses. And I'd be like, do you really want to know? And then she'd think about it and be like, do I want to know? Is this going to like affect me in some kind of way? Or do I really want to know? And then she'd say yes or no. And then I'd either tell her, I'd say, okay, well, ask me again when you feel like you want to know. And then that's how
Wow.
we handled it.
That's so great, and it's so reminiscent. But my two girls, one of them completes my sentences. We've always been that. So Christina and I have always been that. My older one was the one that really kind of went from super. She just shut down when she hit puberty, and it was hard to kind of draw her out. But my little one and I have that same relationship. One of us will ask the other a question, and she'll say, "Do you really want the answer to that?" And sometimes I back out and say, "You know what? I don't." But more often than not, I say, yeah, and we have these heart to hearts. And I think the important thing here is we're making light of it. It's important to be open and be transparent and be frank and be honest with your kids, and find out what they're dealing with. What's their perspective on the things that they're dealing with, if we're going to help them.
And another thing I want to note that I know for sure, especially if it's a teenager, if they're not talking to you and you're talking to them, they are listening, even if you don't think that they are. They hear you. So keep
Wow.
talking.
I am so tempted, I'm tempted to have you repeat that, Shannon. That is so powerful. They're hearing you even if you don't think they are. So keep talking and they are listening, even if you can't always see it on their face. Or,
Yeah.
if you got an eye roller, like mine used to roll their, oh God, here's dad again talking about something, but they're listening to what you're saying. That's really
Yeah.
powerful. We've talked about suicide a little bit, so let's talk about calling 911 as it relates to your response to a mental health crisis. Whether you call 911 or another emergency number, I would think that reactions to mental health crises from other family members might vary really widely. Some people are going to react in a more helpful way than others, and that variance might be scary to kids or anybody in the household, frankly. What are some of the ways in which family members might react to a mental health crisis? And then the second part of this, how can we be best prepared to manage both the crisis and the reactions of other family members?
Okay. So family members. Oh,
Sorry,
geez.
see, we
Take
asked
me
some
back.
deep questions. Yeah, we have some deep questions here, Brother Be Well, Shannon. So sorry to hit you with that, but I think families are all different. Some families are going to react in a perfectly appropriate way, quite helpful, and as you said, put the person going through the crisis first. This isn't about you. And others might just come out of a bag with a reaction that is so surprising it might even be more startling than the behavior being exhibited by somebody going through the crisis. So how can we be best prepared for that variance in reactions?
Yeah. Okay. Well, some of those reactions I think would be um I think if you start taking things personal, you can start thinking like, why are you doing this while I'm talking, or why are you doing this to me? I think that's like one of the main reactions that I think family members might do. Another one is, oh, that person is just trying to get some type of attention. They don't really need it. They're fine. And I think when dealing with all that, and when you say how best we manage, I'm assuming you mean people who are outside looking in and actually coming to manage the situation.
Yeah.
um I would think that taking that person that's having a crisis to a private area, but still, um being careful of like not invading their personal space or whatever, because if you're in a crisis, you're escalated. You're you're not thinking about being in another room. But I think isolating that person in that situation, giving them their own personal space, and then maybe having another person talk to the family and explain what's going on because they don't know what's going on, and then also de-escalating that person in a different environment where they don't see the reactions.
Some powerful, powerful suggestions there. And I can't quite believe we're out of time. Can you believe that, Shannon? It kind of flies by when you got a
Yeah,
topic like this. Shannon O'Connor, Associate Marriage and Family Therapist with HearYou.org. Thank you so much for taking some time out and talking to us today.
it's been fun.
It has been fun. I'm already looking forward to next time. You take it easy.
Okay.
Bye bye. And we talked about a lot of pretty serious topics, so I've got some resources I need to give you really quickly. We touched on suicide. I need to let you know about the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 800-273-TALK or 800-273-8255. There's someone at the other end of that line all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they have counselors in English and Spanish, so feel free to use that one. If you're in Sacramento County, and we're coming to you from our home here in Sacramento, Sacramento County has a 24-hour crisis line. It's 888-881-4881 or 916 area code 875-1055. So hang on to that number as well. Put that one in your toolkit. The National Association for Mental Illness, or NAMI, offers a helpline Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's Pacific time. That number is 800-950-NAMI or 800-950-NAMI. They offer free mental health information, referrals, and support. There are a lot of NAMI affiliates in California and in a lot of other states. Information on California's network of NAMI offices is available at namica.org, NAMICA.org. We've got a number of videos just like this one. If you've enjoyed it, some are part of the parent and caregiver series and on a variety of other topics, but let's focus on that parent and caregiver series right now. That entire series is made possible by the generous support from Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative. That initiative boosts access to mental health support. You can learn all about it at this website, bluesky.blueshieldca.com. That's bluesky.blueshieldca.com. Thank you so much to Blue Shield of California and that Blue Sky Initiative. One more website before you get away from us, ours, Brother Be Well. You can check out videos just like this one, podcasts as well, audio podcasts, compelling print pieces, links to resources, all designed for boys and men of color boys and men of color 12 and up, African American, Latinx, Asian and Pacific Islander, and Native or Indigenous, and the LGBTQIA plus communities that inform and enrich those cultural communities. It's all at brotherbewell.com. Check it out. Join as a member if you would. You can do that for free. And while you're there, after you join as a member, make sure you sign up for the blog. Just give us your email address and you'll get notifications 2 or 3 times a week when videos just like this one go live. All of that is at brotherbewell.com. My name, Michael P. Coleman, content director for Brother Be Well. Great honor of mine to do that, to serve in that role for you. I want to ask you to do 2 quick things for me. Take great care of yourself and take great care of somebody else. Until next time, bye-bye.